Alright, let's open up with the fact that I take medically prescribed meth because my brain is like silly sometimes. Now, does this play into my thesis statement? Short answer, no. But long answer, also no. Except there's like a million more stipulations to that. Hi everybody, I'm Rara, but that does not matter. Who cares? I have an idea, and it's driving me insane. I like playing factory games. Cue the Riverdale clip. You know the one.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
I tried making this other video about like the appeal of factory games, but that's just being consolidated into this video. It's consuming it. Point is that you build things that are cool and you look back at your creations and your big factories and you're like, whoa, I did that, holy shit. And I thought I was really cooking, but it turns out there's a lot of videos people talk about like the appeal of factory games. And like I looked into it and there's no title for that. There's no title, like there's no video called The Appeal of Factory Games. But there's a lot of people who've basically done exactly that, where they're like, oh man, why are automation games so good? Or like, dude, the Factorio is basically crack. But I had a different idea. Terraria and Factorio are two vastly different games. But it seems like there's a lot of people who like, I'll watch a Factorio video or I'll watch a Terraria video, and then they mention the other game in that video as a sort of thing that they also love. Like, I'm not going to go on a deep dive and look into, like, try to re-find those videos. If I just so happen to have any on me, I'll put them up. Probably won't, though. But it seems like there's a lot of people who have played Terraria and now play Factorio, like, from teenage to adulthood. Some sort of pipeline, like the, I don't know, Terraria to Factorio pipeline. My dad has schizophrenia. Like, I might not get it. I'm already 26. But, like, I would understand. Like, it makes sense. Anyways, I just wanted to make this video because I feel like there's this weird connection between both the games and, like I guess, automation games in general with Terraria. And it speaks to, I don't know, people who are neurodivergent? I'm not sure. But I'm gonna attempt to find out doing a little bit of research. A little bit. Alright, so look here. I just typed in Terraria 2 Factorio. We open up with Wifey Mix Factorio with Terraria. There's this playlist by Catherine of Sky, a well-known Factorio player, being like, Autoforge, is Terraria plus Factorio? And yeah, these are just like base level comparisons, but people see similarities between these two games. Let's keep going. Terraria meets Factorio. Terraria plus Factorio. Terraria plus Factorio equals Autoforge. I mean, wait, this guy just did the same thing that the other... Okay. I mean, hell, this person here made a video called Playing the Better Terraria. Factorio with the boys, where they're just playing Factorio with a friend. Join me and my friends while we play Factorio, a survival video game that is similar to Terraria. Autoforge, Terraria and Factorio made a baby. This website, gamesalike.com, is listing 12 games that are like Factorio, and would you look at that, Terraria is one of the games listed that is most like Factorio. And so you're probably starting to get it. You know, some people online, not just me, are seeing similarities. But what? These are two extremely different games. What are we looking at? What is the comparison to be made here? Well, you know, that Game of Life's website, the one with the Terraria thing, it says that there's a lot of crafting and building involved. And you know what? That's true. There is crafting and building in both. In both games, you sort of explore a planet and you craft things and you build like little bases. And it's just like these progression-based gameplay loops that are pretty appealing. And while the game doesn't have like a lot of automation, you know, I'm not really sure what processes could be automated in Terraria, but like there's something. I mean, you can make automated like farm mob thingies, mob farms, that's the word. And now let's move on to a bunch of random threads that I found. I looked high and low across the internet. There's a Steam post, 2017. That was 8 years, no, almost 9 full years ago now. Similar games to Factorio? Look what this banned user said. Not only am I not the first person to come to this conclusion that they are similar games in ways that are hard to describe, but people have been doing this almost since Factorio came out. At least I think it came out in like 2016. Honestly, I don't really know when Factorio dropped. I hear it had like a demo or like it started production in like 2011. Could be wrong about that. Not sure. Never really looked into Factorio. I'm more of a Satisfactory guy, but I'm just saying.
So if we scroll down later in the same forum, we have the OP here saying 214 hours in Terraria. He is one of the people. He played Terraria and then went to the pipeline of playing Factorio. He entered the Terraria to Factorio pipeline. I'm not losing my mind. Even though he goes on to say that he didn't really like Terraria and prefers Factorio, I think that's what he's trying to say here, but he put 214 hours in, so clearly he liked the game at least a little bit. And that you know what, even if he doesn't end up liking Terraria now, that still proves, that still is like a little bit of a thing on my thesis statement that's like helping my point, you know? He went down the pipeline, that's all that matters. I want to show this thread here a little bit because it's kind of illuminating to one of the things that I didn't really think about before, you know, when it comes to comparing these two games, and it's that Terraria and Factorio are long. You know, this is part of a thread for most addictive game of all time. And it's, you know, from a different angle, it's not just about progression and progression systems, you know, it's about like time spent sort of having a kind of forever game. And then from that angle, you can see Terraria as like this game that you come back to and you play for an hour or two and you make a little bit of progression and then, you know, it's chill. And it's this comforting thing where it's like, it's, oh, you know, these games are just waiting for you to come back and they're like comfort games. That's another sort of like point that compares the two, right? Because neither game really has a fail state. You could die 1,000 times in your Terraria playthrough, and you're not gonna lose anything. I mean, yeah, you can put on medium core, but nobody fucking does medium core. It's like no matter what, in both of these games, you don't start over from the very beginning, unless you want to, of course. But you know, you're never forced to start over. That progression that you make, that's permanent for the most part. And as you expand in the world in Terraria, it's like, you know, I bring up the Terraria gameplay side of things a lot because in Factorio, I mean, that's pretty simple. You just expand the factory. But in Terraria's side, you know, you're expanding your village. You're building like bigger houses. You're building like a room for yourself. You build like a storage area. And a lot of people like to get a bit creative with it. And in sort of similar ways, you kind of have these logistical problem solving where it's like, oh, how am I going to build? Like, what do I want my room to look like? What materials am I going to use? In one of my houses from years ago, I had a whole thing of terrariums for little creatures, and I would go out and capture every kind of creature. In one playthrough, I spelled out my name in the house using like the letter statues. Not the most creative thing ever, but you know, I don't really do that very often. And in almost every Terraria house I've ever made, you know, I try to make my main base relatively different from the last playthrough, you know? I think that a lot of people can get stuck in the whole making a box house thing, but if you just take a second from all the constant boss progression you sort of focus on making your world look nice, there's a lot you can do. So yeah, long-term play sessions, long-term worlds that you can keep coming back to, and that your progression does not reset, and they're comforting in that way. That's like, I guess, one of our first solidified like connecting points here in this thesis. I found another Reddit thread here in gaming sections, games with progression like Terraria and Factorio that get you hooked. And this post highlights addiction as like the main factor, where they want a game to get hopelessly addicted to, and these are two of the most addicting games ever played. And I think it comes down to the loot crafting mechanics. Just getting better and better and better items and abilities is what does it for me. Fair, valid, Tholstein 3, I got you, bro. I feel that shit. So people are comparing these games based on pure addiction levels, and I think that kind of makes sense because Terraria is one of those things where it can seem kind of heavy for an outsider to get into. You know, it's often heralded as like the king of Wikipedia games, where it's like, oh, you need all these wiki tabs open just to make a little bit of progress, which isn't true, by the way. You know, if you ever thought that you really can't play Terraria without constantly having like a second tab open, all you need to do is give items to the guide and he can tell you what to do with those items. Like, people don't utilize the guide nearly enough, and he is the one thing that breaks the game wide open. Like, if you don't know what you're doing in Terraria, just give something to the guide and he will tell you what to do with it and what you can craft with that item. Or, you know, just press the fucking help button. He will help you at every stage of progression. He'll give you like helpful hints or just straight up tell you what to do so that you know how to progress. Now for me, I don't even need the guide. I have no issue using my second monitor for Wikipedia articles. Like, I love scrolling through those and trying to like make my own build. I don't really like following other people's builds. So I try to see what's strong myself. In the base Terraria, in like the vanilla game, there is no recipe browser. So The only way you're gonna know like every single item that exists in the game is if you use these wikis. And I like seeing the long crafting trees and planning out like, oh, how am I gonna get there? Is this even available in my tier of progression? Like, oh, how do I move forward? That is fun for me. It's not fun for everybody, but you know. And now I barely even have to use the wikis at all because I know most of the info, so it's just like logged knowledge. So the more that you use the wikis at the start, the less you have to in the future, and it just becomes this thing where it may be that issue at the start, but that issue literally becomes like it's solved by the end. Like it's not even an issue anymore. I don't know. I'm ranting in a way that I don't like. This isn't a video to sell you on fucking Terraria or Factorio. Okay, it's just we're moving on. We're gonna move on. This Reddit thread from 2 years ago says Terraria-like crafting and base building game with Factorio-style automation. Hi everyone, I'm working on a game that might be of interest. I really enjoyed making things in Terraria, but always wanted the buildings to mean or do something. I think that touches on another point that I would like to, that I just thought of here. And that is that in Terraria, you know, you build all these things to advance, you know, you make better crafting stations, and some of them have animations, right? You know, if you're trying to make potions, you put down the alchemist table. If you're a mage, you get like a crystal ball. If you're a warrior, you know, if you're melee type, you place down the sharpening station so you can get like sharper melee weapons that do like armor penetration. And there's all sorts of crafting stations and like ways to expand your base, and like certain ways you can dedicate rooms to specific ideas. And you know, like I said earlier, having a dedicated chest area just for storage, that's what a lot of people do. So you're gonna have at least one room or like a subsection of a room that is dedicated to one style of thing. And when I think about it from that angle, it's like, you know, I'm making a little like subsection of the factory dedicated to making this one item. And this is gonna make a lot of sense for factory game players, but you know, you make little modular additions to your house in Terraria that sort of serve different gameplay functions, right? And you'll build like an apartment complex for all the NPCs to move in. And you'll build like a mob farming generator area to make a bunch of money and like farm, you know, materials and stuff. You can have an area dedicated for plants, like if you're trying to farm strange plants for dyes and stuff. And so you keep adding these little like modular rooms to your house that feels like this gameplay progression, and all these systems come together for the ultimate purpose of making you a badass and or looking cool. Or just having a nice fucking house, you know? Not every room has to do something, but for a lot of people, they like it when the buildings and the rooms do something. And you know, both games touch on that. And that's why when you feel that in Terraria, you go to Factorio. This is coming together, man. I'm feeling like less of a crackhead every minute. Seasoned Terraria player here. Would I enjoy Factorio from 2016? This is as far as I could find. I looked through the Factorio Steam page, and I searched for Terraria, and then I sorted it by date. And I think this is the farthest back I could find. In May of 2016, somebody comparing the two games together. I've seen some sentiment that if you like Terraria, Factorio is just around the corner. I don't know where they've seen this sentiment. I've scoured the internet to the best of my ability. Maybe it's like some old deleted forum threads, or maybe it's just like within specific Discord servers, or the, you know, things I'm not in. But I don't know where they're finding these sentiments of other people talking about it that predates 2016. Maybe it's just like a few friend suggestions. Who's to say, really? But even like a decade ago, people have recognized this phenomenon. A seasoned Terraria player here too of 728 hours, who obviously is also playing Factorio because this is the Factorio, you know, Steam page. And what I get from this article is people pointing out the fact that you build things in Terraria to progress yourself, but you expand and you automate the building of progression in Factorio, and that expansion just keeps getting wider and wider. So for people who thought that like, oh, you like how like the slow modular progression of Terraria, now try Factorio and see the difference in like how fast things can scale up. Rather than always having to handcraft everything yourself, you get a better sense of like things permanently keep on going, which is crazy because Terraria has like an amazing, almost never-ending progression. If you feel like it's not enough, you gotta play modded. In which case, you know, then you play Calamity. There's like, oh no, play the Calamity mod. There's like twice as much content. Like, oh man, this still isn't enough. You know, you beat Devourer of Gods for the first time, you think you're hot shit, and you beat Calamitous, and you're like, oh well, Calamity was great, but what if I tried Infernum? And then you do Infernum, and then you get into mod packs, and you're combining Thorium and Calamity, and you're doing challenge runs like Inferno Eclipse of Ragnarok. Is like, it's like, you know, 20 times the base game content now, more than you could, you know, ever want in your entire lifetime, and playthroughs last hundreds of hours because of how difficult Inferno is. But it's still not enough sometimes, so people go to Factorio. And I just want to end with this last one here that says Terraria or Factorio. Like he's not even really making a comparison. He's just asking which of the two games with no fucking context. Okay, you know what? To be fair, the post was deleted, right? So probably there was more context, but how did they get there? How did they get... Nobody's talking about this! I mean, clearly throughout the years, people have been talking about this, but who is like in bigger ways, you know, in like more public ways, who is talking about this? Unless you scour the internet, you know, and you are dedicated players of one or both of these kinds of games already, how would you even... How did he think of this? And the answer is that they're really fucking similar. Even for people who haven't played either of them, I guess. Like, there are still similarities on the surface that you don't have to play either, apparently. That's what this last one is telling me. I've been trying to, like, piece together little bits of reasoning from each of these threads and stuff that I've shown on the screen. But this one, I wish I had the context, but all I'm getting from it is that maybe you really can just tell. Maybe that you can just tell that both games are similar without ever having played them, and that speaks more from my point than I even know what to say. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna go back to we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay, so what are the findings? There are like a lot of videos comparing the two together, but not a lot of people outright stating the fact, and it's like this kind of thing which kind of drove me to make the video in the first place, because even though some people are seeing it, they're not really saying it, and it makes me feel like I'm gonna die alone. Like I'll never feel the touch of another person. Yeah, that seems accurate. No. But anyway, my whole takeaway from this is that it doesn't have anything to do with neurodivergence, but those kinds of people, my people, have a predisposition to games that can be overstimulating and that are kind of a lot. You know, like Terraria is, even without mods, this massive game that originally took me like hundreds of hours to beat when I was like 16. I was playing it on a laptop with the trackpad. Really bad, really poor way to play the game, but I'm sure a lot of people have done the same, and a lot of people agreed, yeah, Terraria is pretty kind of fucking hard sometimes. And like playing now the Calamity mod, and then Infernum and Infernal Eclipse, I like playing like challenge runs that are like very visually overstimulating to the point where it's like, holy dopamine, especially when you win. But it's like a lot. It's like a lot. Like think the final boss of the Elden Ring DLC, you know, Promised Consort Radahn. That level of like pre-nerfed Radahn, that level of overstimulating. It's just a fucking lot to like perceive at once with the human mind. And then you go to Factorio, and it's like it is overwhelming for a lot of people. You know, Factorio games are kind of a lot, and they're kind of weird to describe, like why they're fun, why they're even worth playing, right? And it's like in the beginning, it's not a whole lot. You're mining things by hand, but towards the towards the later on in your playing, you will see that it appeals to this kind of brain like mine, right? And I've seen this affect other people too, which is why I'm saying it's not just ADHD people and stuff, and not just like autistic people, but Factorio games appeal to your brain needing to fill in something. Like I don't know what the science behind this is, but maybe it's related to brain rot, I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit separate from that though, because I see brain rotted people and I'm like, oh, that's a zombie of a person. That's somebody who's not really engaging with the media. They're not really thinking about what they're consuming. And then there's Factorio games where it's like, the effect that I've been trying to describe is like you'll have a project in mind, right? You're gonna make something. It's like, oh, I gotta craft this thing. But then on the way to automating the crafting of that thing, you see a problem somewhere else in another production line. You're like, well, how, this is inefficient now. I just got this upgrade, and I could upgrade the miner for this. I could change the belts. I could improve the ratios. I could make the throughput better. Whatever the hell the issue is, you're going to be distracted every which way, in every direction. And you're constantly like, it's this big logistical problem-solving thing with a million branches for more problems to solve. And my brother had a very good sort of analogy for this where it's like you open up a door, but the door leads to more doors, and you just keep walking through more doors, never shutting the ones behind you as you go through more separated umbrella branching doors. And that is the perfect way to describe what playing a factory game is like. It feels like you're going insane, but also it's like your own crafted insanity. It's perfect for you. It's like, so you see somebody's, what looks to you like some spaghetti nightmare factory, even if it is kind of clean, and you're like, I have no idea what's happening there. But they know, it's their baby. They get it. They get that you don't understand, but they have built every part of it intricately from the ground up. It's like a woman. It's like a beautifully crafted body. Weird analogy. Don't take anything weird from that. This is like stream of consciousness shit just flowing out of my mind. I should have said like a building, like a well put, like architectural, like engineered project. That would have made a lot more sense and like tied in with everything, but I didn't. And it's overstimulating in a way that Terraria isn't, but it feels like a natural sort of progression where Terraria is like, you control the pace, right? You take on the battles, but it's this constant challenge. I have the summoning item. I'm just going to keep fighting this boss. I'm going to go and mine these things with the new materials, and you're getting all these serotonin, dopamine boosts, and it's like, yeah, a little incremental progression. Progression systems are cool. And then you get to Factorio and just automation games in general, and it's like, oh, this is Terraria, but if it never ended ever, you just always keep progressing. Now, like games like Dyson Sphere Program, Satisfactory, they have like mechanical ends, like you will get to a point where you're no longer introduced to more mechanics, and you just keep exponentially scaling to your own degree of like what you want your projects to be. Do you want to make like 2,000 something iron ingots a minute, even if you haven't beat the game yet, and you realistically won't even need that many for like a good long while? I did 5 fucking years ago, and it looks beautiful. It's one of the things I'm most proud of that nobody knows about, but is important to me. If I had to describe it, it's as if you made a Minecraft world where you made this impressive build that's like, oh, dude, this redstone contraption. But instead of the Minecraft feeling where you leave the world, you come back a year later, and you're like, yeah, this is nice, but I'm just going to make a new world. I just got like that sort of 2-week phase thing that people are talking about, where, it hits different, where it's like you appreciate your builds from the past, but you want to start over. You want to get that new progression loop. Factory games, at least in my experience, aren't like that for me. I usually don't want to start a new world because since the progression is so long and seemingly infinite in a lot of ways, and it's really just bound by your own knowledge, you're a lot more inclined to just re-enter that world and just improve your old designs. You can just deconstruct everything and put it all back up, but in a better, more efficient, more compact, if you like playing that way, more, I don't know, spaghetti way, or just something to make it better in your own eyes. And like, look, I get it. Factory games are scary. It's a big undertaking for a lot of people to ask them like, hey, do you want to use math in your day-to-day? In your life? And it's like, that is a big ask for a lot of people. And once again, we reach back to this sort of neurodivergent kind of connection between these games, because I loved math in high school. I didn't pass math. Like in my senior year, I didn't even take math. I'm like the definition of that gifted kid burnout thing. So I didn't even take math in my final year. They said you can only do a 5 class year. I said, fuck it, I don't care. I'm not going to college. I don't know what I'm doing with my future. I'm not doing that. But I loved math. I still love math. I love working with numbers. I don't know what it is. Just numbers appeal to me. And so like in a factory game, for example, and if this sounds appealing to you, highly suggest playing a factory game, okay? Satisfactory, play that shit. In a factory game, you'll be doing something like, you'll take a miner, right? And it can mine ore at 120 ores a minute. You can put that onto a belt with enough throughput to move all 120 ore and put it into 4 different smelters, all of which are going to craft 30 iron ingots a minute using 30 ore a minute. I don't know if these ratios are correct. It's been a while since I played Vanilla Satisfactory. I'm in the middle of a huge modded playthrough right now of Satisfactory Plus. But anyways, the point is that I have like again, all of these hours in factory games, and they kind of are all consuming. But yeah, you take those smelted ingots, 120 now from the 4 smelters, and you merge them all together on a manifold line, which sounds like a lot, but a manifold is basically just the idea that you combine things together, and then you split them up on one line. And what I mean by that is you take all those ingots you've now smelted in the smelters, and then you put them into, like, say that you're making iron rods, and they need 15 iron ingots to make 15 iron rods. We're still working with even 1-to-1 ratios here. So then, 15, how many times does that divide into 30? 2 times. It's like basic math. People get scared about this shit, though. So you've got 120 ore flowing in to make 120 ingots and 4 different smelters. You manifold all those together, add them all up into one belt that has 120 iron ingots, right? You take 120 of those iron ingots and you split them up 8 different ways into 8 different constructors, making those iron rods. I forgot the word rods. And so now you've effectively divided 120 by 8 to get 15, and so they're evenly all crafting the rods, so that you get 120 iron rods, and those are going to go on to make something else and combine with this other thing, and it's just this long thing of they add more and more complex systems for making more and more complex items, right? And you unlock different technologies and alternate recipes, at least in Satisfactory. And it's this big, never-ending logistical problem to solve. Like I said, it just has all those other problems that it just keeps introducing. And if dealing with numbers in that kind of fashion sounds interesting to you at all, or it's not like extremely overwhelming and at most you'll be probably working with like numbers in the thousands at the worst, then yeah, I think that most people should try factory games if you just want that childlike feeling of never-ending progression. If you just want that feeling of like, I can just keep going, keep improving, and like the only limiting factor is my own creativity, my own skill, my willingness to improve. And I get it. We live in a society that tells you to just stare at your phone and zombie out all day and do brain rot. But I encourage you to actively use your brain. Math is not the scary thing, the creature that you think it is. It can seem so appealing to rather than putting effort into a thing to finish a project, to finish something, you can watch anime, you can play video games, you get it. You can do the things that are easy, that don't take a lot of effort, but they're fallback things, they're comfort things. And that's easy. That is the uncontested path. And it's like, even with this video, I haven't made a video in like a year, It can be hard to just put in the effort to do something that isn't like immediate gratification. I as an ADHD person, I understand that better than most. But here's the thing. All right, class, listen up. Why am I doing this? Your life is going to pass you by. If you don't do the cool shit and it just stays in here, you're going to regret that. So just start doing some cool shit. I know it's hard, right? But like once you start doing things and you make a process out of it, whether it be like video editing or writing a script, you'll get better. And it's okay to fail. And just start doing shit. I should make an entirely separate video about this stuff. I feel like I'm going insane. And I really just had like a lot of shit to say. I'm going to stand up now. Sorry if this got like a little, out there. It's just like my own ramblings about stuff. But I want to put like a little bit of myself into my videos from now on. And like that might not connect with everybody, right? But what I used to do before is I would do these very sort of detached videos that was just like old school Let's Play styles. I have this Satisfactory Let's Play that I like. I think it's a fair enough guide for Satisfactory, even if it's slightly outdated because it was before 1.0. But yeah, it was more like traditional Let's Play style. But this is more like what I want to do now. More like personalized content. And I feel like if you're gonna do content on the internet, you should be trying to say something. Not every opinion that you have needs to be heard. It's a whole ass thing. I watch a lot of video essays, but I always get this feeling when I'm watching some kind of video that if the essay doesn't have like a point, if it's not personalized, I don't really get attached to the creator, and I'm not like inclined to subscribe or to even really think about it again. It's just content that gets lost in the void. So instead of making this detached, depersonalized content, I just want to be me. You know, I just say some shit, and rather than thinking like, oh, I shouldn't include this, that's like too far outside of the scope, somebody's gonna care. Because there are weirdos out there like me who's like, yeah, fuck it, make an 8-hour video, Quentin reviews, I'll watch that shit. And you know, I like getting attached to the creator, and not in like a weird parasocial way, but it's a lot better for me than, I don't know, just consuming shit. There is a big debate about like parasocialism and like content creation and people just being like weird and creepy. And I don't want that, right? But I want people to leave this video thinking, man, I felt something. Like I thought about something. I had emotions about something. A little bit, at least, right? Because we're in this age of like internet apathy, you know, Reddit atheism, and all this other stuff that makes you want to just nihilistically give up, to stop thinking, stop critiquing, stop engaging with stuff. And I don't want that. Anyways, I'm Rara, and if you like the video, subscribe. I don't really do call to actions anymore because I thought that was cringe, and for like my entire teenage life and like young kid life, I saw YouTube videos from the age of like 8 years old, and that kind of fucked with me, and I was like, oh man, you can't even ask for likes and subs because that's cringe, that's try hard. But it's like, who fucking cares? It improves the metrics. It is a proven statistical thing that if you ask for likes and subs, you get more likes and subs. And like, that's cool. If you want to do things in this world, if you want to rise, you got to use every advantage at your hand, at your disposal. So why would you not ask for the likes and the subs? Becoming an adult, right? I'm 26. Becoming an adult is changing how you think about things constantly, reevaluating your own beliefs and ideas, and coming to understand that you can just ask for the likes and the subs. Nobody's gonna be like, oh my god, this fucking asshole, I can't even believe he did a call to action in this video. He asked me to like and sub, so you know what, I'm gonna dislike it. But it's like, who fucking cares? You can't even see the dislikes anyway. What am I talking about?